We live in a money-based world, but why do we require it, and where does it originate from? This story could have finished there, with all of us making pots and spears and trading them with one another. This type of commerce, which does not involve money, is known as the barter system. The problem with barter economies, such as the one of ancient Greece, is that they rely on the coincidence of someone with a surplus of spears and a shortage of pots having to find its exact counterpart to enter a trade. Having to wait for such coincidences results in an illiquid market, which means that not many trades are taking place. The problem of once-in-a-lifetime coincidence can be handled using universal divisible value storage, also known as opportunity. There is no money. Okay, no money. Give everyone a coin, and they can solve their enigma if the coincidence of once doesn't work, because no two parties can agree on a transaction. Value can be saved, trade becomes more fluid, and everyone gets what they want. Wherever trade was common, some form of money was widely accepted. In 17th century Japan, for example, such a unit was the cocoa and rice quantity. The empire even attempted to calculate its overall worth in cocos, arriving at nearly 28 million, which, based on the current spot market price of rice, would be roughly $1.5 billion in today's money. Is this conversion correct? I'm not sure, but I believe it is less than one even speaker. So how much money does an economy require to function? This is determined by the amount of value creation and trade that occurs. Thousands of units will be enough if you live in a Bronze Age community with an economy focused on bread, pottery, and a few cattle. Scale it up to a larger metropolis, and you'll need millions, billions, or perhaps trillions for a prosperous nation. Today, the global amount of money is classified into 4 M's. M0 represents currency and global circulation. This amounts to approximately $6 trillion at the moment. If you save all of your money in a piggy bank, you will ultimately reach the glass ceiling. If you save your money in a bank account, it becomes part of M1, which is the amount of money that exists in cash plus the amount that exists in demand deposits. M1 is currently worth over $30 trillion worldwide. You now put those 30 trillion Washingtons into savings accounts and term deposits. You will now have the amount of money known as M2, which is now worth roughly $70 trillion. Finally, add larger liquid assets such as institutional money, market funds, and a variety of others to arrive at M3. In other words, M3 is the whole quantity of value that we actively represent in some currency. It is presently valued at roughly $80 trillion. This is not by chance the same as the globe GDP, as remember that money began as a trade enabler. These figures are only a glimpse of where we are right now. What will their location be? Several years? I'm not sure, but they should be higher than they are currently. As the global amount of money supply continues to rise. How so? There are 2 methods for creating money. The central bank, a public organization with specific powers, is one option. Typically granted by Parliament, it has the authority to literally print money or create credit, which it then transfers to commercial banks or states by purchasing assets or government debt from them. These dollars can then be spent or lent out, putting them into circulation. However, in most countries, the central bank accounts for less than 10% of total money creation. The majority of it is manufactured by commercial banks, or just banks as they are commonly known. They employ a technique known as fractional reserve banking, which gets us back to you. So you deposit your $100 piggy bank money at an actual bank. The bank may easily presume that you will not come in tomorrow and demand your entire deposit back. They actually play a statistical game. They expect that they will never have to pay out more than 10% of their clients' deposits, allowing them to lend out the balance. That's even better. They claim that the total deposits are 10% and that they can develop and lend out 9 times that amount. So, for the $100 they receive from your piggy bank, they can now lend out an additional $900 in money that did not previously exist, as if you were a magician. They only need to make it seem. They established a form of credit because they can't really print money. That is, they say it is there, just trust us, but never ever try to spend it all at once. Because if everyone tried to do that, we would have a bank run, and everyone would realize that just 10% of it was ever truly present. And because banks don't like to be called GG by their customers, they will set a daily withdrawal limit in these kinds of circumstances. At the same time, they will pray to their gods and moon eaters that the system will settle down and the run on the bank will come to an end before the bank exhausts all of its available funds. The central bank's ability to restrict money production is limited to modifying those 10%, known as the reserve ratio. If they raise it, banks will have to retain a bigger relative reserve, which means they will be able to lend out less, thus creating less new money. That level of controller-side money generation is mostly commercialized and subject to supply and demand loss. If the money supply expands, the value of a currency should fall and inflation should occur. If the money supply falls, we should expect the inverse money supply tick. What about the demand for money? Have you ever noticed how every dollar of money is linked to a dollar of debt? Regardless of how money is created, the institution that gave it out, or something else in exchange at some point. Many conspiracy theories have arisen as a result of this. It's only a reflection of the fact that money has no inherent value. It's merely a representation of value. If a $1 note isn't ultimately the claim on a dollar of debt, or in other words, any value created by someone else, it's just a piece of paper with a pretty drawing on it. So, as long as there are dollars in circulation, we can never get out of debt, and no one can ever truly get ahead. There will be no examples. Assume you go to the bank, borrow money, incur debt, and use that money to build a house. So, at the end of the day, you took money that did not previously exist in order to create value that did not previously exist in exchange for debt that did not previously exist. Cool. Money has now entered the system via building enterprises and other ways, implying that the money supply has grown. Except for N0, because commercial banks do not print money. It's important to keep in mind that you'll eventually be able to pay back the money, effectively canceling out your debt and bringing your net worth and total debt to zero. This is because you'll have traded your skill and time for the dollars of others in exchange for your employment. What do you keep after all of this? Rigmarole represents the worth of your home. While underlying value is being built up, the flow of money occurs in tandem with the value creation process. And the more we produce each year, the more money we require to represent the value we produce that year. The total quantity of accumulation value, or world assets, is currently over 260 trillion, compared to the wide money supply and 3/GDP of around 80 trillion. So, the next time you're broke and believe the big bank conspiracy has screwed you, remember this. Remember that money has no intrinsic value. It is essentially a trade enabler. Most money creationists, privatized bank runs are bad, and the Japanese used to have rice money. Lol. Go make a house. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, do subscribe to our channel Luxe Mindset, and don't forget to hit the bell icon.